Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome again to this refresher series of the shelter severity classification. Today we are on the second session. Last Thursday we had one session, and today we're having the second one. Next week we will have the third one. Last week we had a brief a recap on the SSC as a framework, what it does, how it's structured, and so on. As well as the implementation in context where we have household level data sets like the MSNA and so on. Today, we'll focus more on the implementation with other data sets and how we can do the analysis using the tool and do some adjustment to the final results that we get from the quantitative data analysis based on the data sets that we have. Before I start here, actually, I will ask you to put in the chat if your country cluster doesn't have a MSNA. So if you are the coordinator or the IMO in one of the country clusters, please just put the name of the country cluster and say that it doesn't have a MSNA or it has a MSNA. So we have a kind of a collection of how many clusters they don't have a MSNA. As well, if the MSNA doesn't cover the whole country, please mention that in some countries the MSNA can cover part of the country and the other part might have some other type of assessment or data sets that are available. Please mention that as well. We'll get back to those after we finish the presentation during the discussion today. So again, the session is scheduled for 1 hour and a half. The presentation will not take that time, will take maximum 1 hour, even less today, and then we'll open the floor for more discussions to hear from you, your concerns, your questions, and try to find some answers together to those issues. Just a reminder as well that we will have next week the session on GF, an introductory session on GF, and the shelter needs overview and how it fits or compared to the HNRP, the chapters that we usually put in the HNO and HRP every year. So again, a quick refresher. I just put the slides again here from last week on the structure and the background of the SSC. I will not go in details in this. We talked about how the SSC came as a response to a need that we to improve and standardize the way we do the shelter needs analysis. Launched last year, implemented last year. We are looking forward for more implementations. We have the 3 objectives to do the context analysis, calculate severity and pain, and identify some other factors that affect the severity and the pain of the shelter needs, met and unmet shelter needs. Ultimately, we are looking forward to have the shelter needs overview that will give us a comprehensive overview on the shelter needs in one context or another. This is the framework. We said the blue part is more about the context. The red part is about the shelter needs with the 3 pillars, and the impact of shelter conditions is where we start to do some impact analysis. And this is what the ultimate objective here after we do needs analysis, our response, and then we see how our response affected the shelter conditions in the country. We agreed that SSC has 5 severity phases like any other framework in the humanitarian system, in the sectors, in the clusters, from minimal to catastrophic, and each of these phases has a definition, a well-structured definition at household level and at area level. At household level, we define the conditions, and at area level, we use the 20% rule to determine the severity level. As we said last time, we start from the catastrophic. If more than 20% of households are under that severity phase, then it is the one to be decided that representing the area. We talked about the 3 pillars, how we look at them as people have a home to live in, means the structure, the shelter itself. People can and are able to live within their home. perform their domestic life, and people are able to connect from their home, from their structure, from their shelter, with their community, neighbors, services, infrastructure in that will form the settlement in that area. Overall, our ultimate objective to ensure that people are living with dignity, security of tenure, in adequate dwelling, in well-established settlements with community-level services, with community infrastructures. We mentioned as well that we have some core indicators under each pillar. For each pillar, there are some indicators that they are well defined here as well, and they are reflected in the MSNAs with the global guidance that we have provided and worked on with REACH as the assessment agency that usually implements the MSNAs in the countries. Of course, these are just indicative indicators. You have the ability, as we said, to contextualize them, change and add as you feel suitable for your context. Now we will move to the implementation steps, and we will see how the tool that we showed last time, the Excel tool, can help you in the implementation, and we'll go through step by step with some examples. So basically, at the beginning of the year, February, March to May, we have to define our information needs. And here, when we will be talking about the assessments, the design of the questionnaire, and so on. From June to August, these days, data collection will happen. And I start to hear that some countries already received the data set, the MSNA data set, and they are moving towards the SSC analysis. The SSC analysis here means basically the part of the SSC, which we call the analysis grid, can be built and populated before August, before receiving the data, once you have the questionnaire ready. But you can start as well here at this time, but this has to be discussed with your partners, with your cluster members, and so on. And then the later steps on doing all the data crunching, data compilation, and building the formulas according to your analysis grid in the Excel tool to get the results, and finally creating and writing your shelter needs overview. And we will see how important the shelter needs overview next week compared to previous years as a practice. Basically, we have like few steps to, as I mentioned, to do the SSC. If we look at them from 1 to 5, design your questionnaire, filling the analysis grid and the decision tree. Is it automated in the calculation tool? No, this is a manual work that will be decided at the country level to ensure that your information needs are captured in your questionnaire, to ensure that you populated the questionnaire against your criteria, against your analysis grid, and you know each indicator in your criteria under each pillar has been responded to by one of those questions in the MSNA. This is something to be done. Does this differ when you have a household level data or area level data? No. In all cases, this step is irrelevant or irrelated to what type of data sets or what type of assessments that you are collecting. Even if you are implementing the SSC or doing the analysis with secondary data review, you still need to do the analysis grid and decide for each indicator what type of information and how you will be estimating that part of indicator based on the information you have, whether household level data, area level data, or maybe other type of information. Formatting your data set. Yes, here with what we have, is it automated? No, because this depends on the questionnaire design, the Kobo tool that you have built, the way you receive the data, etc. You need to, here the role is more for the IMO to crunch that data and make it or put it in the tool in a way that will make it easier for him or her to build the formulas and allows the automatic calculation in the later steps. Differs between household level data and area level data. Yes, this is a bit different here because we will see in one example how this we have one more step when we have an area level data. Calculate severity score for each pillar for each household using the analysis grid. It's not automated because here's the part that we will show you that is the IMO has to build the formula here, and from this step onward, if you see in the table, calculating the overall severity score for each household according to the decision tree. It is automated. Please don't change the formulas. Percentage of household under each severity phase for each admin unit for each population group. It is automated. It is similar for both. Determines the severity for each area and population group using the 20% rule. It is automated and doesn't matter what type of data you have, data set you have. Calculating the PIN, which is the sum of the proportion of the all household that have severity 3, 4, or 5, as well automated and doesn't differ. Adjustments, it's not automated. We'll talk about it at the end of this presentation. So to format your data set, if you have a household level data, once you receive the MSNA data set, usually formatting the household level data is easier, doesn't require a lot of work. Mainly, you need to make sure that the population groups, the admin units, more or less, are similar to the ones that you have in your calculation tool. Make it in a way that facilitate your formula building, formula writing to calculate the severity under each pillar. The output, we said the formatted data set that can be used to conduct your analysis. I will go to the Excel sheet now. So here, last time we saw this analysis grid. More or less, this is populated from last year with some sample information according to the standard as MSNA questionnaire that we recommended. The decision tree, we said we don't change. We keep it as it is unless there's a strong justification, and this is we will follow up and we will see why next week with the GF, because this affects the GF completely. Here we are talking about the household data set. So basically what I was mentioning on things to be aligned is this part from column A to column H. Usually you will receive the data set with household level data with an ID for each household, the population group, and admin 1, 2, and 3 with the P code. So this part from A to H, the AMO has to put manually from the agreed upon scope of analysis, list of admin units that is shared by OCHA in the country. This has to be compatible with everyone. And then when you have your household data set here with the sample that I had, every column corresponds to one of the values, etc., as it comes. No matter how many columns you have there, you just populate your data, and then you will have to do some maybe data change, maybe changing values yes and no to 0 and 1 if it makes it easier for you to do the formula, changing merging a couple of columns if you want, or splitting a couple of columns if you want, based on how the questionnaire, the MSNA questionnaire and the dataset was initially structured. But everything related to that has to happen in this sheet before you move on in the analysis. Next step, no, before moving to the next step, I will move to the area level data. If we have area level data, usually what do we mean by area level data? If you have like key informant assessment or maybe observations, you will receive the information or the indicator as percentage of households in this community or in this area are facing this issue. percentage of houses or shelters in this area are severely damaged, and another percentage are partially damaged, and so on. So basically, it comes to an overall figure about the area. Then the action here that we need to do is to transform that area level data into one household level data by translating the percentages of household in relative numbers of households. So each row will correspond to one household. Each column will correspond to one criteria of the sub-indicators. In the household level data set, we said we align the data to the admin units and population here. And then afterwards, the data set will, once you transform it, you can continue as if you have a household level data. We will see it in an example now. So basically, this is a scenario. Following a cyclone, according to the head of a district, 20% of houses had no or minor damage by the cyclone, 50% medium damage, 30% major damage or house destroyed. Meanwhile, the head of the district also reported that 20% are currently living in overcrowding conditions with no privacy. So this is area level data. We are talking about one area called admin X, and the head of the community is telling us this information. This can come in a report. This can come in a data set based on a key informant. As we see here, head of community here, key informant is informing us about this information. So basically, our the analysis grid is simply like this one. So we said safe, no or minor damage. So we have here no or minor damage. So means the house is safe. Medium damage, the 50%, as we see. And then this means that the house is unsafe. Then if it is life-threatening, it should be according to this major damage or house destroyed. So we are kind of populating the analysis grid with this information that we have here. So you can imagine that this is your assessment, and these are the responses that you are getting, and you need to map it towards the criteria that we have here in the analysis grid. Then, these are the information that will inform our indicator 1.1, level of safety and security provided by the shelter. If we look at indicator 1.2, level of privacy provided by the shelter, overcrowding, etc., sufficient privacy, reported privacy, we don't have anything here. No privacy, 0.5 here, reported no privacy, or no privacy and overcrowding as reported. We will see how we will map the figure and the percentages in the household level data, the ones that we will create. So creators according to your percentage and put the scores are as per the analysis grid. So if I look here, we said we have 20% undamaged, 50% medium damage, 30% major damage, right? So 3, 5, and 2, we have 10. So basically, I will create 10 rows here, 20%, 50%, and 30%. I have 10. I will create 10 rows as if I have 10 households. 2 of them reported no damage. 5 of them reported medium damage, and 3 of them reported major damage, as you can see. Then we have the 20% with no privacy or overcrowding. We put all the issues at the same level. So because we have 20% of population with no privacy and overcrowding, in this case, we will assume that these 20% are the same with houses with major damage. If they finish with these people, we start with the household number 10. We say they have no privacy and overcrowding. Household number 9, the same. If we have this number as like 40%, you will have 8 and 7 as well with that. So they will be the same households with life-threatening shelter, and one of them will be in unsafe shelter, according to this analysis grid and according to the percentages that we have. So basically, what we are trying here is to translate the percentages from being at the area level to report it back, to put it back to the household, saying that the household that reports more issue, they have the worst situation. Because usually this is the case. Usually issues, they don't come scattered, they come more or less together. And I know this is an assumption, but this is what we can infer from the data. This is what we can learn from the data. And this is a fair enough assumption based on the experience that we know in the humanitarian context when a crisis hits. So basically, we take the worst case scenario, the worst case scenario to ensure that we are not leaving one behind, and we are not undermining the severity. We are not undermining the situation. So we tend to take the worst case scenario when we populate this data set. Once you have it here like that, now it looks like a household level data. And when it is a household level data, as we have seen here, calculating the severity score for each pillar for each household. Here we have to build the formulas, and then everything will be automated, and everything will be the same from here on to between the two different data sets. Before I move to the next step, if there's any question here, please put it in the chat. I will come back to this part. I know this is a bit complex to work on, but we will come back to it later. I think I will finish my presentation in around 15 to 20 minutes, so we will have more discussions on this specific point. Then, once we have, again, household level data, we will calculate the severity score for each pillar, for each household using the analysis grid. As we said last time, so here you have, again, the columns A to H are the same, exactly the same in this one. So they are the ID of the household, population group, and the admin 1, 2, 3 with the P codes. What we have here, we have pillar 1 score, pillar 2 score, and pillar 3 score, and an overall score for each household. These scores are automated. If you see here, they have formulas. If you look at the top, they have formulas, they are automated, the calculation will happen automatically. Based on what? Based on the criteria that we have defined for each pillar in the analysis grid. So the columns, for example, K to V here, and these two rows, the one I'm highlighting here, they are the criteria for pillar 1 with the scores that we have used for that. If I go back to the analysis grid here, it is the same criteria: safe, unsafe, unsafe, with the scores: sufficient privacy, no privacy, no privacy, and overcrowded. Then adapted to local climate, doesn't provide thermal comfort, doesn't protect against rain or snow, and security afternoon. Exactly the same, even the same writing. Make sure that you have the same writing here, and make sure that you have the same scores. Why we put this without formulas? We can just put formulas to bring it from here. The reason why is just to keep the Excel light and not to have a lot of formulas, because when you have like 10,000 rows with formulas with maybe 100 columns, the Excel will be heavy and you won't be able to work on it smoothly. Similarly, we go to pillar 2, same thing, the criteria and the score for each criteria. Same thing for pillar 3, criteria and the score for each criteria. Now, what is the role of the IMO here? And here it comes to basically, as we said last time, the heavy lifting of the work for the IMO. It is to define or to find in your household data set which columns they mean that the shelter is safe, which columns they mean the shelter is unsafe, or which columns they mean that the shelter is life-threatening, according to what? According to your analysis grid. So from question 1, MSNA, I will have some information that indicates that this should be the score. It's unsafe, but it's still with medium damage. Like, for example, makeshift shelter, tent, collective shelter. If the shelter type of this, it means that it doesn't provide the full safety and security. If it has minor damage to the roof, minor damage to windows and doors, etc., and so on. So whenever I have it in my household data set, I will build my formula according to that with some if and else and VLOOKUP and so on. So basically, this is something to test our Excel skills. Actually, you will need to use all the advanced formulas in Excel to make sure that you are capturing the correct value. And here I'm speaking specifically to the IMOs. Important to make sure that you are building the formula as simple as possible, but as correct as needed. It should be 100% correct. Otherwise, it will affect the whole calculation of the SSC. And these formulas cannot be automated unless you know the structure of your household data set. So this is should happen at the country level, should be verified at the country level. It's important for you to build these formulas correctly, verify them according to your data set and according to the way you format your data set, as we said just before. Once you have your formulas written and reflecting each criteria level here, you will have the severity by pillar 1, pillar 2, and pillar 3 for each household. Sorry. And then automatically the overall severity score for each household will be calculated according to the decision tree. You see the formula here is already written for you. And the decision tree means that if the pillar 1 is 5, according to this structure currently, if the pillar 1 is 5, no matter what pillar 2 or pillar 3 are, then the overall severity score for this household should be 5. And this is according to the definitions of the severity phases that we have seen last time, and we briefly looked at them today, and so on. So according to these three combinations, 4, 4, 4, the overall severity will be 4. This means that every time we come here, I will have the column J, pillar 1, column W, pillar 2, and column AI, pillar 3. According to this combination, the overall severity score for each household will be decided. From here, automatically, your analysis will be generated in this sheet, area level severity, and the pin analysis. All you need here is as well, again, the columns from A to H. Here you have to have the admin units, the population group, and the population figure as agreed or as shared by OCHA. So you will receive the population figures. I guess you must have received them by now, by population group, by admin area. Here I'm using admin 3, but it can be admin 2 or admin 4 or admin 3, depends on each country. This is this usually decided at the country level. Once you have populated these values here, automatically we will go back to the household level severity. We will take the percentages of each household or percentages of households for each admin 3, for example, living in severity 1, living in severity 2, living in severity 3, 4, and 5. And those percentages will be populated here automatically. Based on that, we will calculate the PIN number and the preliminary severity score for that area. Simply, all of these information are automated. You don't need to worry about. We will see here a little bit of that in in the examples. If I'm looking at this data set, admin unit A, admin unit B, I have IDPs returnees, I have household 1, 2, 3 in admin unit A, and one household in admin unit B. Look at the severity scores here, and according to this combination for each pillar, we will find the overall severity score for each household, as we were saying. So for example here, 3, 4, and 5, 3 in pillar 1, 4 in pillar 2, and 5 in pillar 3. If I go to the decision tree, I mean, we will not have 5 in pillar 3, but the example can be adjusted. But let's say it's 3, 4, and 4. So I go pillar 1, 3, 4, and 4. The overall severity is 4. Here, 1 in pillar 1, 2, and 3. We go 1, 1, 2, and 3. This one. So the overall severity score is 2, and so on. 5 in pillar 1, it means it's 5. 4, 4, and 2, it is overall severity 3. Basically, as I said, it's automated. You don't need to worry about it, but it's important to verify those results, to look at them, and to make sure that they are really reflecting what they should be. Because sometimes, especially with Excel, when we work on Excel, we might miss some formulas by mistake. We might copy paste some information in a wrong place, etc. So every time, at every step, please verify what you are calculating and what the results that they are coming out. The next step, as I said, will go to the percentages of household living in under each severity phase. So, for example, in admin unit A, if we look here, we have 1 in severity 4, 1 in severity 2, 1 in severity 5. Well, the example here is not reflecting that example. Sorry for this. Or for IDPs, 4 and 2. Yeah, the example is not reflecting that actually. So if I look at here, I mean, you will get the results as you have the total population. You have, for example, 41 in severity 1, 40 in severity 2, in severity 3, 3, and 8, and 8% in severity 5. You will get the results like that, as shown in the Excel sheet here. This part. No, maybe it's small now. You cannot see it very large, but yeah. So maybe in this part, you will have the proportion of population per severity phase for each admin area and for each population group. Usually the analysis is done by admin area and population group, but again, this is usually decided at the country level, and you follow what is decided there. Once we get that distribution, now we need to decide the severity, the area severity using the 20% rule. For example, here we look severity 5, 8, less than 20%, plus 8, less than 20%, plus 3, 19, still less than 20%, plus 40, oh, now we are over 20%, and we reach the 20% at phase 2, so the admin severity score is 2. Row 2, we have 6, it's not 5, plus 19 is 25, yes. We exceeded the level at the 20% at severity 4, then it is 19. So it's severity score 4 for this area. Similarly, for the last one, we have the admin severity score, and the PIN figure will be calculated according how many are living in severity 3, 4, and 5. Here we have 3, 8, 8. They are 19. 19% of 1,000 is 190. Although the severity score of this area is 2, we still have some people in need. This is important to notice. And this is important to highlight. They might be a small community or a small group of people who are maybe in severe need of shelter, but the community is big, the rest are not in need for one reason or another. And important to highlight this, what we call pockets of needs or isolated needs that you might discover through the analysis. As I said, calculated automatically, you don't need to worry about it. It just verifies the figures if they are making sense or not. Before moving to, I will skip this too. I will go to the adjustments. On the adjustments, before we move to the adjustments, we have some flags. High pin, low pin, distribution gap, severity outlier, etc. What do we mean by these 4 flags here? High pin means that more than 80% of the population are in need in this area. Low pin, less than 20% of the population in this area are in need. And we highlight these two. Why? Just to flag to you that there might be something wrong with the calculation. Maybe it is correct, but just to bring it to your attention to say, pay a little bit of attention, verify the results in this area to make sure that you are not missing anything, or maybe there's something wrong in the calculation, or maybe it is correct because the crisis or the cyclone or the earthquake hit in that area and everyone in that area is in need, for example. Distribution gap. When we look at the distribution here, for example, if I have like 20% in severity 5 and then 80% in severity 1, this is a distribution gap here. For example, if I look at this, I don't have people in severity 2, I don't have people in phase 3, I don't have people in phase 4. All people are in phase 1 and 5. What does that mean for me? And how does that reflect the reality? If there's something wrong in this case, we have to highlight it. We have to address it. We have to maybe verify our data. Maybe the assessment data is not that accurate. Maybe we can adjust. Now I'll come to the adjustment based on the flags. We can adjust it according to some other information that we might have. Severity outlier. If I have like in one area, in one governorate, for example, one province, I have like 6 admin 3s, 6 sub-districts. All of them, 5 of them are having severity 2 and only 1 has severity 5. It's just kind of an isolated area in this country. And this analysis can be even more visual when you do the maps. It will allow you to see if one area is just like sitting alone with high severity among others where severity is low, or the other way around, maybe low severity within high severities. And again, the question is, what does that mean and why it's happening? It's important for you as a cluster coordinator, as an IMO, to verify those instances and to check on them with your partners who have operational presence in that area or in those areas, to make sure that there's nothing going wrong with your analysis and that you are not missing anything in of the situation. So basically, the flags are here to tell you there are something strange going around or going on in the analysis. Pay attention to it. And pay attention to it doesn't mean to change it. It might be the reality. And if it is the reality, we can just say, this is the reality because of 1, 2, 3. If it is not the reality, we need to adjust. And here we come to the adjustment. Using some other factors, using some other information. And here, there are some questions that we can ask. Flagged areas, as I said, we have the automated flags in the calculation tool. This is important to pay attention to. Other clusters as well, like when you submit your data to OCHA for GF analysis, there will be comparisons with other clusters. And if you look at your pin in one area, for example, it is 90% of the population and all other clusters having 40, 30, 30-40% of the population in need. This is a high pin, much higher than the other clusters, or maybe much lower than the other clusters. Similarly, on the severity. So once you start to see that on the GF, of course, with the GF analysis, they will come back to you saying, look, your cluster is acting as an outlier here. Verify that and justify it. If it is correct, tell us why it is correct. If it's not correct, find the solution and adjust your analysis. Something else, if you have any other information that comes to you, as we said, secondary data analysis, reports, you have a strong partner who's operating in the area and they're telling you, no, the situation is 1, 2, 3. The assessment didn't capture the situation and we have to adjust it according to that, right? So this is important for us to pay attention to when we finish the analysis. So once you get these numbers here, PIN and preliminary severity, it's not the end. Actually, it is the start of your analysis. It's the beginning of your analysis here, because everything happened before is more or less planned, is more or less automated. But here, now we need to understand these figures. We need to make sure the figures reflect the reality. If yes, how they contribute to what we want to implement, what we want, the response that we will plan, etc. We'll explain those figures. And if not, we need to adjust and make sure that our analysis, our final analysis, reflects the reality. The question is how to adjust the severity and the PIN. First of all, last time we spoke about the evidence list. You have the evidence list here. You have to populate it according to every single part of the framework. And this, as we said last time, it should be an ongoing process throughout the year. So you capture the information as they come to you. You don't wait until this moment of the year to start populating this evidence list. Once you have the evidence there and you share your findings with the evidence list, with your partners, with your site members, with other relevant stakeholders, you organize your coordination, your analysis workshop, and you present those findings to them and reflect collectively on those findings, and you come to a common agreement. Of course, you don't adjust the figures that you have got based on opinions, rather based on evidence. Yes, I mean, maybe someone would like to increase the severity in one area or lower severity in another area just because they want that or they like that. But that is not, that's just an opinion. We have to differentiate between opinion and evidence. Evidence is based on reality, based on facts that are published somewhere, that are known somehow, but not based on the opinion. Yes, sometimes we have to get to an expert opinion, but that has to be our last resort to arrive to. Once you have the agreement, you log all the information about the adjustment in this adjustment justification, in this column Q, that saying that the preliminary severity was 5, but after review, the severity was, no, it's not 5. Maybe it was here 1%, here 15%, here 20%, for example, and here 40, and then 60, 75, 76 for 24. For example, this is, and now you have the severity, preliminary severity score is 3, so the adjusted is 3. You will say that the adjusted severity score is 3 based on this list of facts, and this affected the distribution to be like this. And according to this, you will have 36% of the population in need, rather than was 20%, and you were saying the situation was catastrophic for 20% of the population. So you adjust the severity according to that. But important, when you adjust the severity of the area, you need to make sure that this proportional distribution reflects the new severity score. So it cannot be 20% here as well, because this means that 20% in severity 5 and you are saying it's severity 3, there's still something wrong in your analysis or in your judgment here. You just try to make sure that this distribution is in line with the severity phase that you have selected. But as said, this has to be based on a strong justification, a strong analysis, a solid analysis that you do with your partners and with your stakeholders. Ultimately, or ideally, we should not be adjusting a lot. Adjustments should be very minimal, unless there's a very standing out situation or instance that you cannot accept as such, you don't adjust it. I mean, only in very exceptional cases we recommend the adjustments. Yes, of course, it is possible. It is therefore to do it, but we don't highly recommend it because usually we do the assessments we have, especially when we have household level data. The assessment should be reflecting the reality. So this is on the adjustments. I will go back to one point that was raised actually when we were working last year on with MSNA data sets, household level data sets. In the MSNAs, usually sometimes you have a weight for each household answer. Means that weight reflects the accuracy, reflects something, and it comes with the data sets. If you have the weight, you continue your analysis as such, and then in the percentages, the weight will be considered as, like for example, in this example, in this table, the first household or the first row here is 0.5. So we weight each row of IDPs in area X, etc., with 0.5. So they are half of the population. So it represents half household. In this one, it represents each row, it represents 2 households. In this one, it represents 1 household, etc. So the weight doesn't affect a lot the analysis that you are doing. If you have it in your data set, the way you integrate it, we see it here, the formula is done for that. And if you have the weight for each population group, for each household, etc., it is integrated in the MSNA data set. If I go back to, if in your data set you have the weight, somehow in one of those columns indicated, you will get it done for you in the calculation. No need to do a lot in this part. So it's important here to instead of using the SUMIF formula, use COUNTIF, and that's it. There's nothing a lot to be done. I guess with that, I am done with my presentation for today. I don't want to expand to other topics, especially on the shelter needs overview and the later steps. I will stop here. We still have around 40 minutes for discussions. I'll stop sharing my screen. I will be back and forth to share my screen so I can see hands and chat. Let's see if there are any. Okay. No, this is not something. Followed. Basu Pudel asking, do we have details on calculating the percentage of damage to the shelter? What do you mean by that, Basu? If you can just elaborate more on this.
I just want to highlight on how we can calculate, the damage of the shelters are varied. So how the partners can determine that the level of the damage, either it is moderately damaged or highly it is completely damaged or moderately damaged. do we have some certain criteria indicators to measure those damage percentage? That is what I just want to ask.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll share my screen again here. So exactly, we have in the MSNA questionnaire what damage or noticeable issues that you have in your enclosure, in your shelter. And we have like some options here. No damage, minor damage, cracks to an opening to the roof, major damage to the roof with the risk of collapse, damage to windows and doors, broken, missing, etc. Damage to walls, damage to floors. So basically, this is something for self-assessment by the household itself. So they will tell you, you will ask this question and they will tell you what they will reply to you. And of course, when the enumerator is collecting the data, they will be able to verify what they are talking about. So this is a simple way of measuring or collecting information or data on damage. In cases of where we have household level assessments like MSNAs. Ideally, we should have engineering assessments where you have engineers or architects from the partners going and visiting door by door and deciding on the level of the damage based on some structural engineering assessments. And that is not included here. That if you have it, that would be great. That will be ideal to decide on the damage, and that will have more weight actually in the criteria. You will have it in the analysis grid to give more weight on your answers if you have that level of information. But if you don't have it and you are using the MSNA data, we have certain level of information that we consider good enough for assessment, not for a survey, not for a full-scale assessment. Because here, in general, yes, it is representative statistically, but it's not comprehensive, covering everyone when we talk about household level assessments like the MSNAs. I hope I answered your questions. You can review what we have in the MSNAs as options. This is one step. The other things that we can do, we can share what a standard template of damage assessments for engineers, where they verify, like, number of windows, number of broken windows, damage to the columns, damage to the roof, etc., based on some engineering assessment that I am myself. I actually don't have that experience or that skill. I am not an engineer, civil engineer or architect myself. I don't know how to do it. There are some checklists for that, for engineers to do it, and they will be able to verify it. We can share some examples of damage assessments done by engineers if needed. Any questions from the group before I go in the chat again? Yes, I see Mozambique.
Hi, Hussein. How are you, Alvaro?
Hi, Alvaro. Yes, please.
Sorry to bother. I have two quick questions. One is the context in Honduras is that we are going into the SHIAF process without an MSNA. So if you have any tip for the P&L severity calculation on that context.
Mm-hmm.
And also for that process, we need to present in about less than 2 weeks the methodology. So I don't know if there is already set a text or a draft of the methodology that we are using that we need to present in that SHIAF. And that is the two questions. We are going in the module 2. Thank you.
Sure. So in cases where you don't have MSNA, when you don't have area level information and you base only on secondary data analysis, I will share my my screen again. So basically, this part of the analysis grid, as you see it here, is still your methodology until here. So the pillars, indicators, sub-indicators, and so on. Now, what you need to do actually is to map the data sources that you have at the country level. What type of information you have? You might have the information from last year. You might have information reports coming on the situation getting worse or getting better throughout the year and so on. So based on that map of data sources that you will have, you will tell that safe shelters are reported according to report 1, report 2, report 3. Unsafe shelters report in report 1, 2, 3, and how they are reported and in which percentages, in which scale. Maybe it is just qualitative information they're saying, well, wide scale damage in community A that affects the majority of the population. Maybe it's just coming like a statement like that. So you need to map your information here, categorize it to feed into your criteria levels. In case you don't have any type of quantitative information, the best guess that you can get, the best estimations that you can get is to depend on the secondary data analysis and map it back to the criteria that we have here, and you put the percentages based on that. There is no set in stone there, I mean, methodology or a way how to transform the qualitative information that you might have or in any country to figures. It depends on how the information is accurate, how reliable, how comprehensive, etc. And you will decide based on that how to get the severity score for each area. And once you get a severity score for each area, you kind of project it to the population and estimate the population in need there. But a similar case we had last year, I think it was Syria in the government-controlled areas, where they didn't have the MSNA, and what they have done, they used the MSNA of previous year with some adjustment based on some secondary data analysis or some other information that they have used. This is still a valid approach as well. If you have MSNA from last year, you can still utilize it according to the SSC and according to this analysis grid. You do the calculation, maybe you add some other indicators, some other factors that will affect the severity and the PIN figures to be worse or to be better according to the reports or the evidence that you might have. This is how we did it in Syria. This is actually how we did it in some parts of Ukraine last year, because the data was not, the MSNA data was only in one part. Other parts, they had key informant data. Other parts, they had only some reports. So they merged all of these types of data sources together to have one comprehensive analysis covering the whole country. We can take that in bilateral as well, once you have the mapping of data sources that you have in the country, to discuss more on the details of the process.
Thank you, Hussein. Thank you so much.
Any other question? Last coin.
Yes, thank you, Hussein, for all explanations about the SSC. My question on decision tree, because in DRC, we convene to not include the services. The race, I think, the step or the stage relates to the services because it's difficult to capture information. So our analysis will focus on shelters and enterprise, not the third one about services. Yep. So what can is this methodology aligned to SSC? What can be your advice? Because I don't know, we don't know if it can impact the final result. So what can be the advice from you yep. about this methodology that you are planning to implement over?
Sure. Okay, I have information on pillar 1, I have information on pillar 2, but I don't have information on pillar 3. First of all, information on pillar 3, as we said last time, usually, or it should be coming from other clusters assessment. So WASH cluster, education cluster, health cluster, etc. And based on their information, you can determine the this information for each of these areas or for each of the households and so on. This is one approach to do it. And actually, this is how we do it with the household level data. We look at other clusters and we pick indicators that they are relevant to the shelter location to enable the access to services. Saying, for example, like last time we were talking about the shelter is far away, for example, from the hospital or from the health center, so people are not able to access the health service. This is related to the shelter, but people are not able to access the health services because they are IDPs. This is more a protection issue, not a shelter issue, right? So just to differentiate between inability to access health services or any other type of services due to shelter, not due to other factors or other cluster issues, because they will be captured in other cluster issues. This discrimination will be captured under protection. If it is due to the shelter, we capture it under shelter, and so on. This is one thing. If you don't have it at all, I mean, I will come back to your case, you don't have it at all, you will disregard pillar 3. Fine. You disregard pillar 3, then pillar 3 score is 1. I'll go back to my decision tree. If pillar 1 is 5, then pillar 3 has no impact. If pillar 1 is 4, pillar 3 has impact in one case only, this very specific case. If pillar 1 is 3 and pillar 2 is 4, pillar 3 has no impact, etc. So we see that pillar 3 actually has very minimal impact on the overall score, yet it affects the PIN and it affects the overall severity in few instances. Why this is happening? I mean, and why we use it if it doesn't have a major impact on the final score? Because it is under our notion of having a comprehensive, how to say it, a comprehensive view on what we do in shelter cluster, not working with the structure, the dwelling itself, but we are working about home and community rather than shelter and settlement. So if you see here in the boxes, I say the shelter, the living conditions, the settlement, these are the technical terms. These are the hard terms here. But if you look at the soft ones and the more people-oriented ones, they are the home, they are the life, and they are the community instead of the settlement or the shelter itself. That's why we keep that component, because it affects the whole understanding, and it affects, in many cases, the PIN figure. It will move someone from PIN, being in need to not being in need. As well, it will give us, I will show you one more thing here in the tool. We have the severity analysis by pillar. You can still zoom down your analysis to see on the shelter how much people need, on the living condition how much people in need, on the community or the settlement how much people in need and how much their needs are. And this will allow you to do more on the planning. So are you going for community projects? Are you going for household projects? Or are you going for blanket distribution of NFIs, etc.? So you will know from this analysis who is the driver of your needs and why the needs are higher or lower in one case, because of maybe they are driven by pillar 3 or by pillar 1 or pillar 2. And so you can design your response according to that. Overall, if you don't have it, you can drop it. But still, I can guarantee you, if you look at the MSNA, I know that you have MSNA this year in DRC. If you look at the MSNA, you will still find some indicators that they will serve you in the deciding on pillar 3. We can take a look on that bilaterally, and we see a way forward. While hands will be raised, I will read this question from Wawero. How will we determine the percentage of small percentage of people in need in phase 1 and 2? So yes, I'll back to share my screen. So the idea when we have here, for example, I'll just populate this as an example. like here 50, 35, and then here should be 10, for example, 3 and 4. So if you see, this is 100 distribution, and the overall severity of this area is 2. Still, you have 15% of the population in this area. Let's say 15%. I mean, you have like 250 almost living in this area. 15% of them are in need, and they are 35,000. And 35,000 is really a huge number, right? Although they are living in an area overall with severity level 2, not catastrophic, not crisis. It is acceptable situation, but still there are some people affected there. Even you have 2% of them are in a really catastrophic situation. I know maybe I might have some hint where this is coming from, the question. When it comes to a pushback from intersector, when it comes to pushback on the targeting, etc., this is beyond the number of people in need. The people in need are people in need, and this is where we keep it. We keep the people in need analysis, that we capture everyone in need. When it comes to targeting, when it comes to prioritization, we will look at maybe only areas with severity 3 and above, or only areas with severity 4 and 5, and so on. This is something different. But at this moment, at this point of analysis, we need to capture everyone who needs humanitarian shelter, even if all their neighbors are living in a good condition. Maybe their house might be destroyed due to maybe a conflict, or due to a flood, or etc. All other houses are well designed. They escaped the flood. They managed to survive the flood, but the single house in a big city was destroyed by the flood. Do we disregard them? No. I mean, there are some factors when we target them. Yes, they are still in need. We acknowledge that they are in need. Do we respond to their need or not? That depends on the prioritization criteria that we will design after we finish the analysis of the needs. Where you? I saw your hand up and you lower it down. I don't know if you want to come in.
Yes. The question is, you find, like for the example you have given, we have in phase 1, phase 2, roughly around the question was around let's say 85%.
Yes.
They are not in that. They don't fall 15. The other 15% falls in 3, 4, 5.
Yes.
But there are some of the needs within the 1, 2. But I've come after I've analyzed the calculation. I understood that it's within the captured population within that area that now falls between the 3, 4, 5. So they are all covered. Yeah, it's clear.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, when we look at the proportion of population, like the need is at household. I mean, if one household is in need, it is in need, no matter what the area situation is, right? The point when it comes to the area level severity, it is the average of household severities in that area. And that's why it's important to capture those who are in need in areas where you don't have major need or major issues in the area. And we still keep them under our attention. Yet, when we move to the next phase of targeting, prioritization, etc., we might not respond to them, or we might respond to them based on our resources, based on other factors as well.
Thanks, that's clear.
Sure. Pepe, please.
Okay, thank you to passing me the floor. Last week, when you were presenting the score, the sector severity score, I start asking some question, but it was the time was not full to go over for all these questions. So I send you some questions,
Yep.
4 questions, according to our situation on the field in DRC, and you tell that if today we can discuss about
Yes,
these questions.
exactly.
I don't know if you want I share my screen
Yes,
for
please.
the questions.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you would like. Yes, yes, that's totally fine.
Okay.
Yes. So if we see the questions are
I
Pepe.
don't know if you.
Yeah, we see the screen, Pepe.
Okay, thank you. Because for the first question I asked last time, it was about when we have 2 areas with same severity.
Yes.
And with different scale of pin. So I ask, in this case, which area will be prioritized to have shelter action?
Yeah.
So in this question, you said that we will see the scale of the displacement for the pin that we have in B, and we can decide to orientate our action more in area B than area E. So that was the first question we discussed last meeting.
Yeah.
And I sent a 3 other questions because the time was very short.
Yeah.
So in the other hand, we can have area A, we have 1,000 households in the pin, but in area B, we have 30,000 households in the pin, but the severity in area A is 4, and the severity in area B is 3.5.
Yeah.
I ask you, what will be our priority? How can guide our choice?
Yeah, exactly.
Is it the scale of the displacement or the severity?
Okay.
Let me limit for the 2 questions, and after we can continue to the
exactly
3, the
other 2 questions. Exactly. Yes.
Yes.
So if you scroll up a little bit just to have the 2 questions on the screen. So in the first question, you have 10, in the same severity scale, 3.5 or 3, for example, 10,000 and 30,000, which area has more, should be more prioritized, right? And in the second example, in severity 4, you have 1,000 households. In severity 3, you have 30,000 households. If we look at the SSC, we know that the severity and the pin are linked to each other. So in question 1, this means that the total population of area A is much less than the total, or almost third of the total population in area B. Is just the third, 33% of it, right? Because they have the same severity, and the percentage of people living in severity 3, 4, and 5 is 1,000 and 30,000. Means that the area B is bigger, has more scale, has more, is larger, etc. In the second example, when we come to compare areas with, the severity in area A is 4, means the situation is worse, but affecting less population than in the second scenario where the severity is 3, affecting more population. So to whom we should pay attention more? To those who their houses are destroyed, or to those who we can respond to them quickly, etc. Here in these 2 scenarios, actually, here the key word is the prioritization. Who is worse off and who we should prioritize? This means that we need to pay attention to a couple of things, or maybe 3. First of all, the situation itself, and that is told to us by the severity. The severity is telling us the situation is really bad in this area, is really much worse than in the area A than in the area B in the question 2. This is one factor to prioritize people. The second factor, do we have access to the people in area A or not? If we don't have access to them, how we will prioritize them? Third, how much resources do we have? Fourth, how many partners are there in that area already there? And what is their capacity? Are those partners able to build shelters or just distribute tarpaulins? What type of programs, what type of response they can implement in that area, and so on. So there are multiple factors that will come in to the equation when we start looking at planning, prioritization, and implementation of the response. The SSC will tell you what is the need and where is it. Now, based on that, you have the operational presence map, you have your resources, you have the cap that is given to you as a shelter cluster by the humanitarian coordinator, for example, saying your envelope must be $300 million, not to exceed $300 million. So what will you do with that cap, and how you will try to reach to the maximum number of population, of households, with the best interventions that you can deliver to them. And then you have here to balance the situation. Unfortunately, till now, I mean, in the SSC, we don't have this part yet designed. We are moving towards that. We are coming to it in November to work on this part with some guidance and some, I would say, not standard methodology, but some recommendations on methodology, because this is really very contextual and should be decided not even at the country level, but at the area level, at the community level, at the subnational level, and so on. So, because there are a lot of factors that will affect your decision making there. For that, we are coming to it. And if you have seen the GSC strategy, we have a major component in the strategy called optimal reach. How we optimize our reach, how we make our response reaching to those who are most in need, and to capture most who are in need. I hope this statement is clear. So we cover those who really need more, and we try to cover everyone who needs with the available resources. Of course, we know the situation in the humanitarian sector. We don't have resources to cover everyone. Crises are happening again and again, recurring crisis, protracted crisis, and so on. So we need to be more strategic, more aware of the other factors that are happening or they are affecting the situation, to be able to reach most of the people that we would like to reach with the best service that we can deliver to them. So basically, this is what I can give on these two questions. I will keep the discussion ongoing on these two things, on how we can prioritize after we know the number of people in need and we know the severity level in one area, how we can bring down that analysis to the household level and project it with our resources, with other factors, to make sure that we are capturing or we are responding to those who are really most in need. This will come in the weeks after we finalize this implementation of needs analysis. As I showed you last time, I can reopen this. I will share my screen. Just 1 second, it's opening.
Yes, I've removed my screen that to help you to present your screen.
So this is what I was showing last time, that currently what we are doing with the SSC is we are looking at the context analysis. So we have the context and the crisis, and we do the needs analysis. So it is this part here. We have talking about the context, what are the elements of in the SSC framework that we would like to know about the context, crises that they happen, sources of information, methodologies of collecting information, and we do the analysis according to the SSC. The next step for us is to do the prioritization according to the SSC, program our response according to the SSC, and monitor the response according to the SSC, and this will affect the way we collect the 5 Ws. That's why when we send the reminder for the reporting, we ask you to report back the 5 Ws. We are doing some compilations there and linking all the activities, all the indicators to the SSC, and we will present that with some guidance on how we build the 5 Ws for next year. Because hopefully everyone who implemented the SSC and then monitoring the situation with the with activities linked to the SSC, that will allow us to do some impact analysis where we kind of complete the full circle. And for the other two questions, Pepe, if you can share your screen again.
Yes, it's there. Okay, okay. Let's finish the last two questions, and I will talk again. So in the question 3, that was about the term. In the presentation, you say we will make the enquête on the field on November, and that will help us to the calculation of the HNO HRP process. And I ask the question again to say, if in the next year, like here in DRC, every month, every time the situation is changing, how will we do if something arrive in different area again, and to decide which place will be prioritized, if it will again, we will go again to the field, making the evaluation, coming back before to make the certain calculation, certain activity calculation, and classify the areas before to decide the actions. Because here, the second question is, sometimes we can be here after some crisis. They ask us as shelter cluster to decide to prioritize the areas because of the financing that is close to near 2 weeks. They give us 2 weeks to say, give us the area classification to privilege the financing. So for us, it will be very difficult if we can, if the right decision is to go again to the field to make the evaluation again before to send to the OSHA our classification for the vulnerability of the area. That is the third question.
Let me respond to this, and as well to the first question when you talk about when we assist people and how that assistance will impact the severity of that area, because more or less they are kind of linked to each other. So we are talking about the SSC implemented now in August, September, up to November, and we will have a snapshot on the analysis, right? This is just one snapshot. An image, just a screening in one moment of the year of the situation based on some information. We move in the next year. There are some incidents happening, a crisis, a conflict, etc., happening in different parts of the country. How we capture that information. Also, we are responding to the needs that we have discovered, we have detected through the analysis, how the situation is evolving. So more or less, both of them is to keep an eye on the situation, to keep monitoring the situation and adjusting your SSC analysis according to the factors that they happen in the country, whether they are a new crisis or a major response that happened, and how that will affect your classification during the year. Unfortunately, we don't have a monthly MSNA. We don't have this happening every month. We don't have a detailed shelter assessment happening every month, so we cannot. We don't have a PDM happening every month, so we cannot capture those in very detailed way and re-implement the SSC as we were explaining now. But what we can do, if you remember, during the SSC, we were talking about the evidence list that should be captured throughout the year. And maybe every quarter, so you produce now the shelter needs overview. We will talk about it next week. You have your document, you have your severity, you have your PIN per area, per population group. 1 quarter ahead, like in January, for example, you sit back with your partners, you present the results again, you present a new element or new evidence that happened that you might have got, and you review the analysis. You say, okay, the situation in area X has deteriorated due to a new conflict that is happening now in the area, affecting the causing a new displacement, some shelter damage, etc., based on some reports. I have it in my evidence list. I can adjust my severity and my PIN number there and reissue an updated version of my shelter needs overview. This will not affect the figures that are in the HNO, but at least it will affect me as shelter cluster and my partners. And I know as shelter cluster how I can direct my partners, how I can orient my partners to where the needs are really located, and to how to respond to those needs. Similarly, if you have, like in 1 quarter, for example, major project, you have one partner had big fund implementing major project for integration, returnees and integration and livelihoods, etc., that allow people to reestablish their lives. You can say to your partners, and you with your partners, saying, we know that the situation in that area has improved due to 1, 2, 3 factors, due to these projects that happened, due to this fund, due to reconciliation between the conflicted parties, etc. And the situation now is de-escalated, has improved. So the severity improved from 4 to 3. This doesn't mean to say that people who are in need, they won't be returned to become in need if we disappear. This doesn't mean to stop delivering the service. This is important part to keep in mind, that people's situation is improving because they are receiving the response, because they are receiving our assistance, the humanitarian assistance, right? If we take this assistance out, will they continue? Are they enabled now? Are they empowered now to continue their life on their own or not? If not, then their situation, their severity is still as such. If yes, they can continue on their own, yes, we can reduce their severity. We can take out from the PIN figure some of those who are able to carry on their lives on their own without needing humanitarian shelter assistance, and so on. So the point here is to capture all the factors that they are recurring throughout the year, document them, and reissue your shelter needs overview. This will affect you as a cluster. You are entitled as a cluster to republish your shelter needs overview throughout the year 3-4 times, according to your capacity, according to your to the information that you have, according to the situation in the country where you work. There's no kind of a recommended frequency for that. It depends for each country. This revision, it happens according to the country and to the country team, how you decide with your partners. The most important part with this revision is to have it well documented, well designed, based on solid analysis, based on solid justification, and publish it. This will give you a stronger position within the humanitarian community that you are working in, facing the humanitarian coordinators, the donors, the government, etc., everyone. So this is very important to capture throughout the year. We used to have this cycle. Okay, August, September, we produce a channel, a HRP, and then we sleep until next year. We look at the needs again on a yearly basis. But it's important, as we have in protection, we have protection monitoring that is recurring every month or every couple of months, and you see the situation evolving. We would like to have this happening in shelter cluster. We would like to see how the shelter situation is evolving throughout the year due to our response improving, due to a new crisis deteriorating, and so on. I know that we are over time now, but I don't see, yes, the presentation and the recording will be shared on the website. I will put the link where you can find them on the website.
Okay.
And if there's any major question.
Yes, I have some questions, because for us here, these 4 questions are oriented our action in the urgence here, in the emergencies here in DRC. And looking about all these challenges on the field, we propose another calculation, and I send you that again in April to see. I don't know if it will be possible to have a discussion with your team that will
we can have a bilateral discussion on your methodology.
That will allow me to show you what we did and what we think to resolve these questions only with our severity calculation.
Okay.
So we don't have time now to do that, sure. But I will like, if you have time, you will call me and we will discuss about that.
Of course.
Thank you very much.
Of course. Thank you, Pepe.
Okay.
Lasconi?
Yes, thank you, Hussein and Pepe, for discussing about the context in DRC. I know that Pepe may know that we are planning to discuss on this issue the year before starting the HPC. We're already starting with the JAF 2.0, but we plan to organize something at national level, and I think Hussein will not hesitate to include you in this discussion. It's very, very fruitful and useful. So thank you again to remind the necessity to distinguish the SSC as a tool that helps us just planning the need or the people in need based in our severity, the needs, or in the country level. But we have also had the tools that can help us having or setting a good decision in terms of when it's come to the implementation phases. So I think it is important. Thank you to remind this element. So that's what we are doing. We are trying to do here. It's to take to partners that SSC is just a tool. We are going to use it this year, combined with MSNA results, and also through the GF, we will have our sector PIN. So, okay, it's a good thing to know. But in terms of coordinations or response, we know that there are others, information source that we can use to even judgment expert can be included. So it can help us to go to the next steps after the planning phases. So, all right, thank you.
Definitely. And for sure, Lasconi, we can take some bilateral discussions on how to proceed with the implementation in DRC. And this is not limited to DRC. This is a call for every cluster, for every country cluster. Please reach out to us to look with closer eyes to, like kind of zoom in on your cluster and check the type of information that you have, the data sources you have, the context that you are working in, and how the SSC fits into that. The SSC in general is meant to be contextualized, flexible, to be adapted at the country level based on the needs in the country. The most important part on the SSC is to keep this understanding, as we said in the beginnings of the 3 pillars, having the home, having being able to live within that home, and being able to communicate with your surrounding. This is the main part of it. How we assess that based on the information that we collect in the countries that are available in the country. This differs from one country to another, and this is what we can look at together on case by case. I know we are 8 minutes over time now. I am sorry for that, but the discussion was really interesting, and I wanted to have this discussion with Pepe in front of everyone as well to share that knowledge, because these questions are yes coming from DRC context, but I'm sure many of you can relate to these questions in your context as well. So just to have the knowledge shared with everyone. I will stop here. We will have this next session in 7 minutes in French. Elsa will facilitate that session like last week. I will be there as well in the session to answer any questions if needed, or to give some interventions if needed. But maybe see you in 7 minutes for French speakers if you would like to take more. And for the rest, see you next week. And next week's session is really important to look at our role as shelter cluster in GF, how we take out our SSC analysis, put it to GF, and put it not only to GF, to many other things that we are working on. And that will be discussed more in details next week. So until then, I wish you a very good weekend for those who are having the weekend tomorrow, and happy Friday tomorrow for everyone. Good afternoon, and see you next week.
Thank you, Hussein.
Thank you, Hussein.